Okay, in a minute I'm going to take all of this stuff off, but I'm going to just talk through how ignition works in case you don't know. This is using points, of course, on this 1976 bike. Modern bikes use electronic ignition, which is more sophisticated, but it basically does the same thing. So what happens is, as the engine turns, as the magneto goes round, the magnets go past these coils and they will generate 12 volts or thereabouts of electricity, and that is sent up to the ignition coil, which is normally mounted on the frame there. The ignition coil has two windings in it. It has the one that the current is going through has a few hundred turns, say, of wire, and there's an outer set of turnings, several thousand turns of copper wire. So 12 volts is going up into the ignition coil, and it's coming back down, it's going to earth through the points, and the points are normally shut. So as the engine turns and the magneto has a sort of internal, in this case has a sort of internal can on it, as it comes round to the right point, it pushes on the heel of the points there and opens them. So all of a sudden the current that was going through the ignition coil and going to earth is now unable to go to earth because those points are open. So that's where some sort of weird physics happens inside the ignition coil, and where you have those two windings. The initial winding with 12 volts going through it creates an electromagnetic field all the time, and as suddenly when you interrupt that current flow, that collapses, that electromagnetic field collapses, and it collapses into the other set of windings, which has several thousand turnings. So what that does is that turns your 12 volts into something like 20,000 volts, and that's got nowhere to go except down the HT lead into the spark plug. It gets to the tip of the spark plug, and the only place it can go, it desperately wants to get to earth, is to jump across the spark plug gap and make a spark. So that is how ignition works. Put it very simply, it's just a switch and some electromagnetic weird physics magic. So there we are. So I'm now going to take all this stuff off. Points first. I don't think anyone's ever been in here apart from to adjust the points. Off. The condenser sort of smooths out the current as it goes to the points, and stops the current from jumping across the points gap. You only want it to jump across the spark plug gap. So they come out of there easily enough, and a new condenser will be going on there. So the condenser is connected to this coil, so this is the one that's doing the ignition, and this is the one that's doing the lighting, I guess. So I'm going to take those all off. And something to note is, on these old Hondas, I'm talking about Yamaha's Japanese bikes generally, you will see on some screws a cross head and a little dot next to it, and that means that screw is called JIS standard. It's not Phillips or definitely not Posidrive. So you need a JIS standard screwdriver, and that will fit that screw head exactly. And I think when I was a youngster, lots of people said, oh, these screws on Japanese bikes, they're really made of crappy metal. I think it's probably because we didn't know this JIS thing, and we were using any old screwdriver and chewing them up. So yeah, let's see how we get on. Yep. 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 Yeah. Okay, they're all out. Now the screws that hold the stator on are not JIS, so I can use an ordinary Phillips screwdriver, the one that fits. And that's done up very, very tight, so I'm going to need something else. And the something else that I need is a 10mm spanner that goes on this hexagon part of the screwdriver shaft, and it should do it. If not, it's I have to resort to the impact driver. These are very tight. They're pushing against it very hard, and yeah, that's it. They've all come loose, so I think that's enough excitement for you for now, and I'll take that out and then hopefully concentrate on getting the engine out of the frame.